Welcome to The Warp. I'm Jack Rita with Future Pastimes. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about yellow alert aliens that are tough negotiators. They enable deal situations, or they incentivize getting into a deal, or they have special ways to do deals. And this group is a little bit different from the ones in the green alert video. And that's because of some of the unusual effects that they have. There's also only 8 in this one, because as I was going through the yellow alert aliens, I really only found 8 that I felt fit into this category. And that is not including aliens that basically intimidate you into trying to get into a deal situation. Like, for instance, Leviathan. That's an alien that can bring along one of its planets as the offense, and the planet counts as 20, plus any ships of theirs that they have on the planet, plus their attack card. Most of the time when Leviathan is coming at you with the planet, you are going to lose that encounter. And Leviathan can leverage that fact, even if they only play a reasonably good attack card, like a 10. That's 30 right there, with plus a couple of ships. They can leverage that and say, look, why don't we get into a deal situation instead? It'll be mutually beneficial, and that way only I and you will be the ones who get anything out of it. I don't have to worry about bringing along any allies. And of course, you can betray Leviathan under those circumstances. The intimidation factor is, it's a risky maneuver, but there are a number of aliens that can leverage the fact that they intimidate in order to get into a deal situation organically. But the rest of these aliens are not relying on the intimidation per se in order to get a deal situation. And some of them, they don't even get into a deal situation themselves. So you'll understand how it works. So only 8 aliens was surprising, considering that there are more yellow alert aliens than there are any of the other 2 colors. So let's take a look, and we'll talk about how they do their dealing. We're going to start off with the Bride. The Bride is from Cosmic Dominion, and this is a fun and whimsical alien that I enjoy quite a bit. Here's what it does and how it works. You have the power to marry. As a main player, before allies are invited, you may use this power to marry your opponent. That player must choose one of their ships and place it on the sheet. You may only be married to one player at a time. Let's be reasonable. You and your spouse may ally with each other without being invited, and may show each other cards in your hands at any time. And once per encounter, you may use this power to allow a trade of one card from your hand and your spouse's hand. Now, that's the important part. So having a player that you're married to makes it easier for you to ally with them without needing to be invited, and vice versa. But the real power of the deal making is in the fact that you can show each other your hands. You can check to see if you both have negotiate cards when you are opposing each other, because you're still, even though you're married, you will have to encounter and fight each other, which, no comment. But you can verify the negotiates, and if one of you has 2 negotiates and the other doesn't have anything, you can enable a trade so that you both can play those negotiates. And there's a stick as well here, so you may divorce your spouse at any time by turning that player's ship on your sheet upside down and taking half of their cards at random, rounded down as alimony. And you may not remarry a player that you previously divorced, etc., etc. So you've got the stick there to say, look, let's do this exchange, and I'll make sure that we both have negotiates, and then we'll reveal them. And if you try to pull one on me, I will divorce you and take half of your hand. So they've got that. And, unless the player has lousy cards, it's generally a pretty good consequence that you're going to try to avoid if you are the bride's spouse. So the Bride can be a very effective alien for making deals, especially if, the players have negotiates. And that's going to be true for most aliens in the game. If you don't have negotiates, you're not going to be making many deals. But Bride can make it a little bit easier than most aliens. All right, our next one is Kronos. And Kronos is from Cosmic Incursion, first expansion. And here's how it works. You have the power of time travel. So as a main player, after encounter cards are revealed, you may use this power to call out time travel. You then return your revealed encounter card to your hand while your opponent sets their revealed encounter card aside. And then there's some stuff about what to do if they don't have any more encounter cards. But basically what you're doing is you're replaying the encounter. So how this works with the dealing is you can say, look, let's get into a deal here with Kronos. And if it turns out Kronos has revealed the negotiate card and Kronos' opponent did not, Kronos can time travel and they can say, all right, look, you get one more chance. You see that I have to negotiate and we can make this happen. And they can do it otherwise. They can say, all right, we can look at the totals. We can say, all right, I'm clearly beating you, but I'd rather get a deal, especially if Kronos is on defense. If they have revealed and they're looking at the totals and they could just win, or they can say, why don't we time travel? If you've got a negotiate card, why don't you play that the second time around and we'll make a deal. And again, anytime you get into this, a lot of these situations with these aliens in particular, you're taking a chance that the other player will be like, nope, I didn't have a negotiate after all, so sorry. Or I did, but I just didn't want to play it. But if you and the other player are genuinely trying to get into a deal situation, Kronos can make that happen a little more easily, and they've got a little bit of an insurance policy there with the time traveling, so can be very effective. This next one's a little bit stranger. It's Diplomat, which is literally the power to negotiate. It's going to need a negotiate card to make this happen. This is also from Cosmic Dominion. And the way it works is when you are not a main player and one or more attack cards are revealed in the encounter, so it only takes one. If one person negotiated and the other played an attack card and revealed it, you can still use your power. Use this power to play a negotiate card from your hand and turn the revealed attack cards into regular negotiate cards. Then you and the two other main players have 2 minutes to attempt to make a three-way deal. You can apply all unique effects of the negotiate card. So if somebody plays Crooked Deal, that will apply. And nobody can gain more than they would normally gain in a deal. So Diplomat can make if you've got a negotiate card, they can make deals happen all the time. And it's very effective, especially if you can sweeten a deal with other stuff. You can say, look, give me some more negotiate cards and I can make more deals happen that you're involved in if you want it to. So I try to leverage that as much as I can. I say, look, I can get you out of a bad situation provided I have a negotiate card. So if you're going to lose, we can make it into a deal. I don't have to get a colony every time, but, I do want to get something out of that. So Diplomat is a really good, effective alien, provided they've got those negotiate cards to make that happen. And when you don't have a negotiate as Diplomat, you've got to get either you got to get rid of those cards, or you got to ally with the defense to get more cards so that you can get that negotiate into your hand, because then you can fire that anytime you're not a main player. All right, this is another alien from Cosmic Eons that has a unique way to do deals, and it's very different from your normal deal making. So let's take a look at this one. It's the Power to Awe. When you're a main player, you may reveal an attack card, and if there is no fire token in the targeted system, you may use this power to place a fire token in that system. And at the end of the encounter, all attack cards revealed are placed under the fire token to act as fuel instead of being discarded, regardless of other game effects such as Clone's Power. When you're not a main player, after Destiny is drawn, you may offer to create or expand a fire in the targeted system, and the defense may offer you anything they could give you as part of a deal to do so. So that's how Fire Dancer is creating a deal situation. It's outside of the normal encounter. It's before the encounter actually even happens, the actual reveal part of it. But they're able to get stuff out of it, and they don't even need negotiate cards. So you may use this power to accept the offer. If the targeted system does not already have a fire token, place one there. Then you and the defense may each place one attack card from your hand face up under that existing new or existing fire token as fuel. So what do these fire tokens do? Well, whenever both sides in an encounter reveal attack cards in a system with a fire token, unless you are the offense or an offensive ally, the face value number showing on each fuel card is added to the defense's total. So the fire tokens are these protective things that add to the defense. And you as the Fire Dancer, if you're on the offensive side, you can ignore them. but they're great for helping to protect your planets, and they're great for helping other people protect their planets if they are willing to give you stuff in a deal. So Fire Dancer is can usually negotiate their way into some stuff outside of the normal encounter elements, because they don't, it's when they're not a main player that they're able to make these fires and make these deals for the other players. And again, as part of the deal, you can try to get negotiate cards or get rid of negotiate cards. You and that main player, when you make the deal, are putting attack cards from your hand, so it helps you to get rid of low attack cards and hopefully draw a new hand more quickly than other players. So Fire Dancer can be a very effective, powerful alien, and it's making its own deals. In that same vein, in a different way, is Nanny. Nanny is from Cosmic Eons, and it is an essence alien, and that means it's got its own set of little mini cards that are unique to that alien. And here's how it works. So when you're not a main player, after alliances are formed, but before encounter cards are selected, you can use this power to motivate one or both main players. And to motivate them, you're going to give them a negotiate card from your hand, and then you're going to give them one of these consequence cards, each player that you motivate. So you have to have negotiate cards to do this, but more on that in just a second. So what's going to happen is, if a motivated player reveals a negotiate card, and it doesn't matter if it's the one you gave them or not, it could be you may have given them a special one and they revealed a normal one, or vice versa. That doesn't matter. As long as it was a negotiate card, they're going to carry out the incentive part of the consequence card. So there's an incentive part, and then there is a punishment part. So revealing the negotiate card when you have been motivated gives you the incentive. If they don't reveal a negotiate card, you're going to carry out the punishment, and you leave the consequent card there as a marker to mark that they are in timeout. And I'll explain what that is. Well, here we go. A player in timeout may not participate in the game in any way or communicate with the other players, nor may other players communicate with that player while they are in timeout. If that player is the offense, their turn ends. If they become the defense, you draw again from Destiny. In any case where play cannot progress because of timeouts, then all other players' consequence cards are returned to the Nanny. And then finally at the bottom here it says, whenever one or more other players discard negotiate cards, you may use this power to retrieve one of those negotiate cards and add it to your hand. So that is how Nanny is able to get more negotiate cards. A nice little trick that, Diplomat can't do that. So Nanny has got a little bit of an edge there and making these things happen. But they're having to give the negotiate cards to the other players along with their consequence. I'll give you a couple of examples here. So this is called a reward consequence. So the incentive is, if you reveal the negotiate card, you will receive one reward for every ship you have in the encounter. So that's a pretty good incentive, depending on how many ships you have in there. The punishment, though, if you don't reveal a negotiate card, is the Nanny looks at your hand and discards any or all artifacts and cards from the reward deck, and then you are in timeout during the next player's turn. Their turn. If that's 2 encounters long, that's 2 encounters that you are in timeout. So pretty harsh. This one is called the hand consequence. So the incentive is that you can discard as many cards as you wish from your hand. So that's usually pretty useful. The punishment, though, is the Nanny looks at your hand and discards your highest attack card, and you're in timeout during the next player's first encounter. So not necessarily the whole turn. I'll give you one more. This is a ship consequence. And this one, the incentive is you'll release one of your ships from the warp. So not a big deal. But the punishment is you'll lose one ship to the warp, and you are in timeout during the next player's turn. So that's your ship of your choice. It doesn't say that the Nanny gets to choose it. So that one's not terrible, but what's going to happen is Nanny's going to have 3 of these, and there's quite a few. They'll always have 3, so they'll always be able to hand out 2 of those. In fact, they can hand out one, they're going to draw another one, and then hand out the other one if they so choose when they want to motivate players. So this is actually enabling other players to make deals. So it doesn't really benefit Nanny, even though it says as any player. That really only applies to the picking up of negotiate cards. The other part is when they are not a main player. So it's kind of an interesting take on it. It's not normal. because they're not getting anything out of those deals. They're just trying to manipulate the other players in certain ways. And again, you could give somebody a consequence card and a negotiate card, not because you want them to make a deal, just because you want them to punish. You want to punish them or make sure that they lose the encounter. So it's interesting, but it almost should be a red alert just because of the nuance of how to really leverage Nanny. So a little bit of a borderline one. The next one's from the base game, and it's very straightforward, and it's the mind. And the mind, in order to be a good negotiator, they need to know that they can get into a deal situation. So the mind is able to, before allies are invited in encounter, they can look at the entire hand of one of the main players. And if they're a main player, then they can look at their opponent's hand. They can look at their own hand, but that's not really something you need to use your power for. So the mind can look at their opponent's hand when they're a main player, and they can say, all right, let's see if you can. They can go, all right, I'm looking at your cards here, and I know based on what I have, I can beat you in this encounter, but we could make a deal because I've got to negotiate and you have to negotiate. And wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be more beneficial for both of us? It gets that negotiate out of your hand so that you're not forced to play it at a time when it would be inopportune to do so. And that's my pitch for those sorts of things. And I say that part about easily beating you whenever I'm mined, regardless of what is in my hand. And usually I can't beat them, but again, the deal is often a pretty good incentive. And mind at least knows what they can get into. It's no guarantee that there will be a deal. You've got to, work your mojo to make that happen. In a similar vein, we have Philanthropist. So a lot of people don't think about Philanthropist as a good deal-making alien, but I do. So here's how it works. It's a base game alien, Power of Giving. As a main player or ally, after alliances are formed, you may use this power to give one card from your hand to either main player. The opponent adds the card to their hand and may play it normally. So they're just giving a card away. But like mine, they can say, all right, I'm holding several negotiate cards. Why don't I give a negotiate card to my opponent so that I know that they have one, and say, why don't you use that right now and we'll make a deal. And we can talk about what's involved in that deal. You can give me some of your lousy cards and I'll be giving them away to other players. And won't that be fun? Of course, you can give them back to them later on. It's that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But I think Philanthropist is a really good alien for setting that sort of thing up. So I try to be very deliberate about what cards I am giving to other players. Now, there are aliens that want certain cards, like Fodder likes to have low cards, and so does Antimatter, so does Loser. So when I've got low cards in my hand, I say, look, let's make this work out. And it's a good way to sort of incentivize deal making in the short term and in the long term. It's like, I'll feed you cards that you want and not cards that you don't want. And when it comes time to oppose each other, let's make a deal. And a lot of times players will go for that. So Philanthropist can be very effective for that sort of thing. And then finally, we have Pirate. Pirate is from Cosmic Dominion. It is a reimagined version of Pirate. So the old Eon and Mayfair Pirate is nothing like this. It was a Lucre alien. So it has been rethemed. It is the power to raid. So as the offense or an ally, if your side wins the encounter, you may use this power. Capture one or more ships from the losing side by returning an equal number of your winning ships to your other colonies. They would not land on the planet or receive rewards or other benefits. So when you're the pirate, you want to send a lot of ships into the encounter as the offense or as an ally, so that when your side does win, and hopefully for your sake they will, you're able to capture more ships on the other side. And it can be main player or ally ships. Instead of going to the warp, they're going onto your sheet. Now, when they're on their sheet, during any regroup phase, you may send up to 4 ships from this sheet to the warp to collect an equal number of rewards. So if you were going to get rewards, you'll still be getting those rewards, but now you can choose when you're getting them, and that can be very important. Sometimes you don't want reward cards because you do want a new hand. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to draw these rewards. I'm going to get 4 rewards, and they might none of them be encounter cards, which means I'll have to discard them all when I draw a new hand, or like I drew a -7. That's not going to help me out. So being able to use those as rewards whenever you want is pretty good and not to be underestimated. But additionally, During any regroup phase, you may negotiate the release of any or all ships on the sheet back to colonies in exchange for anything their owners may legally give you in the deal, such as cards from their hand or new colonies where they already have them. So Pirate, like Fire Dancer, can make deals happen outside of the normal flow of how a deal would occur. And it's during the regroup. So I've captured a couple of ships from Red. So you know what? If you want these ships back and you don't want me to get rewards for them, let's make a deal. It helps if you've got a good number of ships of a particular player, or they have a lot of their other ships in the warp and they're hurting and they're more desperate. But, and again, it just depends on what's going on and what your situation is. I always try to leverage Pirate as a way to get stuff, but I know that I've got the fallback of being able to just ditch those ships to get rewards. And it's when I need the rewards. So that is pretty effective. So those are some tough negotiators, as I like to call them, in the yellow alert category. I'll do a red alert category video soon. And let me know what you think of these aliens, if you've used them in this way to make deals for those that are not normally considered deal-making aliens. What are some other aliens that you like to use to make deals? Are there any other yellow alert aliens you think I should have included? Let me know in the comments if you like. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you again soon.